us a send-off into this great new year. Gavin?
How's it going, everybody? It's great to be here with the Queens Village Republican Club, the oldest Republican club in the country. I spoke here what feels like a lifetime ago. It was just prior to the world ending or changing, whatever you prefer. It was, you may remember, the beginning of 2020. Things were great. The economy was roaring. President Trump had just blown to smithereens Soleimani, I don't know how to pronounce it, and things were good. The country was together. Everything felt like it was moving in the right direction. Our spirits were high. We were really excited about the future, and that was the tone of my speech that I gave. And it was about the future. It was about the future of our country and the positive direction that we were going in. And man, did things change. Man, did things change. We went from such a high, from such a peak, to the lowest point in our nation's history. And I don't say that lightly. I mean that. Any student of history can look and say, wow, have things fallen. The anarchy, the chaos, the destruction, the economic destitution that's been brought onto this country. It is a disgrace what we went through. And this was coordinated. This didn't happen per chance. This was a designed destruction, and this was designed chaos to bring this country down, to change power, to shift power from President Trump and from his new agenda to that of Pharaoh Biden, as the rabbi said, and his America Last agenda. And you know, most of this country was taken into a whirlwind, and we weren't expecting it. And this is the kind of stuff that's happened throughout history, and we have to learn from the past. We have to learn from history. And I'm glad to be here today on the, it seems like it's the high holy days, not of the Jewish tradition, but the high holy day of leftism in this country, January 6th, the great day of insurrection, written in their holy Bible of woke. And they have turned this day into a day to demonize Americans, demonize anyone who dares to speak out, who dares to think differently, who dares to challenge the status quo, the orthodoxy. And what we're seeing in this country, what we're seeing in this country is disgusting. We have political prisoners today. This very day, we have people in solitary confinement being denied basic medical services, denying access to see their family, their loved ones, all for the horrible crime of trespassing. And look, we're all about law and order. If you want to slap a fine on them, slap a fine on them. If you want to treat them like they've been treated in the past for trespassing, treat them like they've been treated in the past. But to see what's going on to many of these people, many of them, you know, good, hardworking people, grandmothers even, patriots, exactly, patriots, who were welcomed into the building, so even then you can't even call it trespassing, and now to spend their days rotting away, being denied medical service, being denied due process, while corrupt federal attorneys are leveling charge after charge onto them, trying to break their spirit. This is the state of our country. It's disgusting, it's shameful, and I'm very sorry it's come to this, but it just goes to show that we have to constantly be vigilant. We cannot rest on our laurels. We rested on our laurels back in 2019. We thought everything was great. We were going to have another 4 years. It was going to be a landslide. It would have been a landslide. It was a landslide. Thank you. And now we're facing what could be another landslide. But we have two problems facing us. It's a two-front war. You have the first front, it's the radical left, and they're going to fight us tooth and nail because they're ruthless. And honestly, I appreciate their ruthlessness. I wish Republicans had the same level of ruthlessness. I wish we punched back twice as hard. And they're playing by a different set of rules. You know, they're all about, you know, being all about style over substance and all about, you know, going along to get along. That's why we need more people like Vicky Palladino. We need, sorry, I don't know if you guys are looking at my nose. That's why we need more people like Vicky Palladino, not just in city council, not just in the state legislature, but in Congress, because too many of these Republicans, I don't give a damn if they have an R next to their name. I could care less. If you're going to go to Congress, if you're going to get elected, do your job. If not, get a regular job like the rest of us and work a 9 to 5. Otherwise, I don't care. What are you doing there? You're not there to you know, go to cocktail parties. You're not there to get along with them. You're there to effectuate change and to effectuate an America First agenda. That's why we elected you. That's what you're doing to represent your constituents, your nation, your Constitution, and everything we hold dear. I don't care about this go along to get along. I don't care about this backroom deals. So fight like Democrats. Learn from the Democrats.
Amen.
Fight like hell.
Amen.
When they gerrymander, you gerrymander 10 times harder.
Yeah.
When they fight tooth and nail, when they attack you, when they're ferocious, you better be twice as ferocious back. Because this losing with your head held high has gotten us nowhere. It's gotten us nowhere. So you have the left fighting like hell. They're going to use the system. They're going to use Omicron. They're going to do the mass mail-in ballots. They're going to do everything in their power to corrupt the system. You know, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, you had one day to vote, Election Day, and that was it. You go to the polls and you vote. Done. They're going to twist the system. They're going to make every excuse in the book to flood these ballot boxes, to make this system shady, and they do it every cycle. There's always been a margin of fraud, especially in states like New York, and you always have to overcome the margin of fraud. So that's why you can't get nihilistic. You can't get pessimistic, because Trump won the first time and they weren't expecting it. Vicky Palladino just won and they weren't expecting it. Maybe we'll have George Santos win, which he probably did the first time, and they won't expect it this time. So you got to keep fighting, you got to keep voting, you can't get pessimistic, and you can't just rest on your laurels, because that's what they want. They want people to think that the game is too rigged, that it can't be won, because then you give up. And when you give up, then what?
They win.
They win. Thank you. Exactly. So that's why you got to keep fighting. Now the second thing that we have to keep in mind on this two-front war against the left is within our own ranks, and I touched on it briefly, we have a problem in our party for some reason. I don't know why. There's a lot of weak, fake people. They're phony. They come here, they sell you a bill of goods, and they get into office, and what do? They do nothing. They do absolutely nothing. And that's why you have to admire President Trump, because he holds their feet to the fire. When they run as being a pro-Trump, America First candidate, then the first thing they're doing is voting for impeachment, voting to, indict Steve Bannon, who was a great speaker, by the way, last year, voting to restrict your rights, voting to steal your money. I don't care what party they're from. You need to hold them accountable. That's why the primary process is so important. That's why clubs like the Queens Village Republican Club, that's why clubs like my club, the New York Young Republican Club, are super important to make sure we vet these guys. And we make sure we only get in true fighters. Because it's absolutely pathetic. You take New York City, for example. There's a lot of Republicans here. It's a city of 8 million. But we're bigger than many states. And if you look at the actual number, there's a lot of us. People forget this. You look at Staten Island, it's one of the most Republican areas in the country. It is pathetic that we only have one member of the city council who is willing to stand up to this nonsense. That is pathetic. That's an indictment on our party. It's a testament to her fortitude, but it's an indictment on our party. All of them ran on being anti-mandate. All of them ran on fighting against this system and changing it. But how many of them were willing to get dragged out in handcuffs to fight back against it? How many of them were willing, as a first-time member of the city council, no prior political experience, willing to take on the speaker and the rest of these corrupt lots? None of them. None of them. And they come from much safer districts than Vicky, where Vicky had to win a three-way race. So it can be done. And you know when it can be done? If you're strong and you stand firm on your beliefs and principles. That is the best winning strategy. Because these consultants, these grifters, they'll come around, they say, no, you gotta moderate. You don't play to the base too much. Just be wishy-washy. That's how you win elections. No one respects that. You can talk to a communist, they don't respect it. No one respects it. Everyone, universally, throughout history, all cultures, they respect strength and they respect people who are principled. I respect the principled person I don't agree with. And I say, at least they stand for something. I think it's stupid, but at least they stand for something. No one is going to respect you if you're for sale, if you're transactional, if you'll do and say whatever you need to do to get elected. Being elected and winning an election is not the end goal. It's a means to an end. It's not an end in of itself. So I don't care if we gain 60 Republican seats in the House this cycle. Those 60 Republicans who get elected, they better be solid, they better be good, they better be America first, and they better be fighters. Otherwise, we're just going to be run the same way we've always been run. And how many of these Republicans did President Trump expose? He exposed a lot. A lot of them were total trash. And we found out over a few years, and it was a rough ride, and we learned that we had a lot of traitors in our midst. We cannot make those mistakes again. We're going to do well in the midterms. We got to make sure the primaries are also fought over. We got to make sure we care about the local elections. Because a lot of times people don't come out to vote. They don't come out to vote for in the locals. It's sad. And you look at the maps. You look at the maps in this city. I mean, you take Curtis Sliwa's results. He won a ton of assembly districts that are held by Republicans by very good margins. He won a lot of Senate districts that were run by Republicans by very good margins. You're telling me you can't get a local person from that district to run and get the same margin? I don't believe it. Where's the party? You need to get involved. You need to hold the party to account. You need to hold your elected officials to account, because even in a place like New York, we should be doing so much better than we are now. We should have 5 Vicky Paladinos, not 1. At a minimum. I'll take more, I'll take less, but at least something like that. So it's pathetic. It's absolutely pathetic. We're going to take back the House, and they better do something. They wanted to impeach Trump on nothing. They better impeach Biden on the whole litany of things he's done. There better be articles of impeachment ready, and they've had plenty to work with. Plenty to work with. Every week there's something new. There's a new lie, there's a new scandal, there's a new catastrophe, Afghanistan, whatever it may be. Pick and choose, throw a dart, you can find something, and if that fails, bring it up again. Do the same antics the left does. They want to march through the hall with their articles of impeachment. Okay, then let's have George Santos marching through the halls with his article of impeachment. Let's have that. There's things to learn from the other side. You know, they're wrong about a lot, but they are fighters politically, and I can't stress that enough. So we have to keep holding them to the fire. We got to keep fighting, and we really got to take this country back block by block, state by state, district by district, because even in a place like New York, this is winnable. I genuinely think, and you may call me crazy, I think for the first time in a generation, we have a really good shot at the governor's mansion. And with that, maybe the state senate. Because right now, what we're seeing is the Democrat agenda on steroids. They are pushing through so much crazy stuff. Because you know what they know? They know that this is temporary. They're not going to have all the levers of power indefinitely. So they want to make sure that they can cement generational control while they have power. You know, when Republicans have power, you remember the first 2 years, we had 2 chambers. We had nothing. They could have been signing bills until President Trump's wrist was broken. They should have been pushing bills through till midnight. You know who would do that? The Democrats would do that if they were in the same position. Thank God they're not. Thank God they're not in that position. They're in that position here in New York. I mean, we have never been this badly dominated by one party, and we are going to see the impact of that. Because just like in a business environment, you need competition, you need a 2-party system, you need a multi-party system, whatever. You get one-party rule, there's no incentive to do anything. Oh, the trash wasn't picked up, who cares? Oh, you got mugged on the corner, who cares? You're going to vote for me anyway. I'm going to win by 30 points. What do I have to do? Oh, you want your streets clean? Oh, you want your schools open? Oh, you want your schools open? That's too bad. I'm going to win by 30 points. I don't care about your kids. Pay me more. Give me more money. That's what they think. They don't care. Until you hold them to account and you threaten their political livelihoods, and they're not going to win re-election, they're not going to change. So this one-party rule is dangerous. It's really, really dangerous. And they're going to do a lot of bad things. Look at the first thing they passed when they took over in 2018. Bail reform. Bail reform. The first thing they passed. Did they fix the schools? Did they fix the subways? You know, that's the stuff they always run on. They run on, oh, you know, we're Democrats. We're gonna give you all this free stuff. The first thing they did is says, you know what? We're going to let the criminals out. Yeah. We're going to let the criminals out. Now you have this district attorney in Manhattan. Crazy. Insane. He's going to bring San Francisco to New York. He's going to bring San Francisco to New York. He is going to let violent criminals walk out with desk appearance tickets. Desk appearance tickets. They will sock a grandma in the face. This guy will have a rap sheet going back 10 years, and he will be back on the street within a few hours. And then when his court date comes up, he won't show up to court. You think he's going to show up to court? They're not even going to be able to find him. He's going to have committed 3 other felonies in that time. And the system is so broken that you're going to have these cops, NYPD, God bless them. They do all this work. And it's an impossible task because they arrest the guy and then they see him on the street corner a few hours later. You know how demoralizing that is? I mean, talk about the demoralization with these mandates. How many great officers, people who ran into the buildings, FDNY, people who ran into the World Trade Center, put their lives on the line every day, how many of them were pushed out of their jobs, out of their pensions, out of their benefits, their livelihoods, because they wanted to make a personal medical decision? And then you have this horse-faced Kathy Hochul. I can't believe it. We need more nurses. We need more doctors. We have a crisis. Yeah, you fired them all. You fired them all. The people that were on the front lines who have the most natural immunity. And then they have the chutzpah. You like that? The chutzpah. They have the chutzpah to say, you guys are not the party of science. You guys are not the party of science. That's rich. That's very rich. We're not the party of science. Okay, so the party of science in their book is the party that denies natural immunity, that denies herd immunity, that somehow thinks that wearing a cloth mask, that you can literally, anything can come through it. They think a particle, a microscopic particle, is going to be stopped by that. It could go into your eye. It could go into your nose when you're wearing it down. It's theater. It's compliance theater. This is the party of science. The party of science that just states arbitrary rules. 6 feet. Yeah, why not 6 feet? 4 feet, 3 feet. It's an auction. Who cares? There's nothing to it. There's nothing to it. They think when you're standing, the virus just comes and goes like this when you have a mask. But the second you sit down to eat a burger, oh my God, you're safe. The second you're biting into a cheeseburger, you are safe. So when they call you that, they say you're not the party of science. You just have to laugh at them because this is the party of compliance. They're the party of brainwashing. They're the party of authoritarianism. These are not the go-lucky liberal Woodstock people of 40, 50 years ago. This is a different type of person. This is a very different type of person. You're not dealing with some free love, free spirit, and war thing. No, you're dealing with people that get off on telling you to wear a mask, that feel a sense of entitlement to talk down to you, to look down on you, treat you less than human. And that's what it is. It's dehumanization. And they're trying to make everyone who has a political disagreement be akin to killing grandma. That's what they want. It's disgusting. But this is what we're up against. This is what we're up against in New York, in the city. I mean, we're here on the front lines in New York City, and we're getting the brunt of it. I mean, what is happening in this city and this state is absolutely incredible. And this is the future for the whole country. Everyone wants to run to Florida. They want to run to North Carolina. And I tell them, I said, look, that's great. That's great. You can run off. But it's going to come to you. Because, again, with Republicans, here's the problem. They always play defense. They always run. They say, oh, we lost this. We're going to move somewhere else. No. The Democrats don't do that. The Democrats come to you. They say, oh, that's a nice suburb. We're going to get rid of it. Oh, that's a nice home value, nice school district you have. We're going to get rid of it. Because they're not just sitting and waiting. They don't care about their blue states. They want to take over a red state. They want to take over a red city, a red school board. Whatever it is, they fight on all fronts. And Republicans just run and hide. They run and hide and they say, oh, we'll just move somewhere else. But you can't. That's why I love groups like this. I love the grassroots energy. I love the spirit. Because that's what we need across the country. And you go to red states, and I deal with a lot of clubs across the country, other Republican groups. They rest on their laurels. And I tell them, I say, in New York, you get some of the fieriest, most enthusiastic activists. You get people who are out every day protesting outside Gracie Mansion, outside City Hall, and they do it in New York City. They do it without any results. And then you have these people in red states, they think they have it good. I said, it's coming to you soon. I mean, we used to have Giuliani. We used to have a lot of Republicans in this state, and they're disappearing. And now they're pushing through these congressional maps, and they're trying to get rid of every Republican they can. Long Island, upstate, they're going to squeeze us out. They're going to squeeze us out. They're going to do everything they can to rig the system. So that's why it's so important that we get out to vote, that we get people registered, we get people involved, and we get them elected. Because even one person in a minority, even one person like Vicky in a minority, they can make a massive difference. They can change the narrative, they can set the tone, they can gain publicity, and they can awaken people's eyes. So I don't care if you're in a minority, you can do a lot of things. Vicky's going to have hundreds of thousands of dollars to spend in her district. She can use a lot with that. And that's how you start. You take one seat, you take another seat, you take a Senate seat, you take an assembly seat, you do a lot of things, and you build the party. So that's what we have to keep doing. And look, if we have some wins going into this next year, maybe at the gubernatorial level, maybe we can turn this state around. Because New York is cyclical. It's always been cyclical. It gets really bad, and then you have to elect someone to clean it up. You get the crack epidemic in the 80s, you get the crime wave, you get just the destruction, the Bronx is burning, and then what happens? Then you get a Giuliani, and then it cleans up. Then it gets good. And then what happens? Then all these people that don't realize how bad it used to be, they move in, and then they vote for people like de Blasio. It's sad. It's sad. It's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle in New York, and it happens every 20, 30 years, a generation. That's why I think we really have a good chance of turning the city around, of flipping it, and hopefully making a difference. And that's why we can't give up. You can't be nihilistic. You can't be pessimistic. That's what they want. That's weak. Just keep fighting. Even if you lose, you may lose the first time. Giuliani lost the first time, then he won the second time. Trump lost this past time. Well, it looks like he's in better shape. He's a great tan. He's lost a lot of weight, and I think he's going to win next time. So let's see. Let's hope. And they're scared. And that's the thing you have to remember, because they censor, they deplatform, they ban people. They had to get rid of this Dr. Malone, the guy who invented it. Exactly. He invented it. He is highly credible. They all know him. He has all the pedigrees you could possibly imagine. Very soft-spoken guy. He knows his stuff. He just speaks true facts. And he says, here's what's going on. Here's what's happening. And what do they do to him? They ban him. Why? Because they're so scared. They're so scared of people waking up and realizing that they've been lied to and that something's up and something's amiss and that they have to stop it because they know it's going to be an avalanche. It's going to be an avalanche. And the second people start to realize, wait a minute, I'm on my second booster. You threatened me taking away my job. I just got COVID. Now I'm locked at home for 10 days and I can't go out. What the hell was this all for? Those guys are going to wake up and they're going to realize this was a lie and I was lied to. And people don't like to be lied to. And when they realize it, maybe they're in a state of denial and they don't want to realize they were lied to. But when they wake up, they get mad, and that's what they're worried about. They're worried about a backlash. They're worried about a red wave, which is coming. But we have to make sure it's a good red wave, and the people we get elected into those offices are not wishy-washy Republicans, are not fake Republicans, are not rhinos, but they're people that are going to actually do what they were elected to do. So with that, I guess a Q&A. I think I hit my mark, right? 20 minutes?
Gavin, wait a minute. You know what? I just want to know a little bit about how you do it. You know, your club, the Young Republican Club, is awesome. Now, you know, we're a little jealous here. We thought, you know, a couple of years ago, we were the top of the heap. We were the top dogs in town, right? You know, the Queens Village Republican Club, we used to draw the crowds, we used to, you know, have all the speakers. And then who came along? Vicky came along. And she had these meetings, you know, which were, every one of them was a, you know, was a blowout meeting with over 200 people. And then on top of that, this young fella comes along and outshines us all. You know, what a job he's doing. We're all working together at this. Talk a little bit about your club and what you're doing.
Thank you, I appreciate that. And thank you for the 2 introductions tonight. I know James wanted to give me 1 introduction pre, and then you gave me the introduction, so I appreciate it. Look, I mean, you got to put the time in, you got to put the effort in, you guys do it, these things matter. When I took over the club 2.5 years ago, we had no people. And this isn't, you know, we're the whole city, but it's a Young Republican Club. They would get 5, 6 people show up to an event, they wouldn't do anything, they'd have a few drinks, they'd leave, that was it, it was dead. All I had was a legacy. It goes back, not as old as you guys, but it goes back over 100 years, 1911. We're the oldest Young Republican Club, you guys are the oldest Republican Club. So we took it over, and the first thing they tell me, because they knew I was pro-Trump then, and this club was kind of run by, you know, some wishy-washy Republicans, they said, well, you know, Gavin, I know you're a Trump guy, and you know that's fine and all, but you know, our advice to you would be, just stay away from the Trump stuff. Don't get too political, because you're not going to do well in New York. You're not going to get a lot of people to come out, and you know it won't be good for the club. I said, yeah, sure, give me the keys. And we came out swinging, pro-Trump. We were America first. We were conservative. We weren't afraid. And you know what happened? You build it, they will come, and they came, and people came. Because if you think about it, if you're a Republican or a conservative in a place like New York, I'm not saying you're crazy, but I'm saying you're principled. You're definitely committed, because you're in a minority, your family probably hates you, everyone at work probably hates you, so you probably believe what you believe, and you're sticking to it. And then if you're not like that, you're probably hiding. And I know a lot of people work in a lot of industries in Manhattan, you know, they work in finance, they work in media, the corporate world. And the corporate world has been taken over by the left, because like I mentioned earlier, we have this dated idea about Republicans. The Republicans are the party of big business, that they're the party of the wealthy, of the Wall Street. No, they're not. The average Republican right now is a working class guy, working or middle class family from the suburbs, from rural America, from the outer boroughs. They work, you know, a 9-to-5 job, and they love their country and they want to be left the hell alone. The average Democrat are people that are partying on yachts, they're eating at the French Laundry with Gavin, the other Gavin, with equally good hair, I'm sure, and they're prancing around and they're talking about, you know, their trips to Davos and their trips to the Swiss Alps, and they're flying on their private jets and lecturing us about, you know, carbon emissions. They're the party of the elite. They're the party of these neo-aristocrats that think they're better than you. That's the dichotomy, and the parties have changed. Because the Democrats, you know, JFK Democrats, you can argue they were the party of the working class people, but things have changed. And people are stuck in this old way of thinking, and they haven't gone with the times. So that's what we're happening. But anyway, back to what I was saying, you know, we came out, we organized it, we professionalized it, we made it clear that we're standing on our principles. You know, I remember we stood with you guys outside of the Museum of Natural History to protest the removal of the Teddy Roosevelt statue. We all marched together to Gracie Mansion on the mandates. People appreciate that, and they come out, they join, and we've grown. So we went from 40 members, now we have almost 1,000 dues-paying members in 2 years. It's been a massive growth. We have our own clubhouse. Thank you. We have our own clubhouse in Manhattan. We get national press. We have massive black tie galas. We're raising money. We're sending people on deployments. We're building a party. We're building infrastructure. And it all came because we were principled. We stood for our beliefs. And we got active. And we realized that you got to keep fighting. You got to keep organizing. You got to bring great speakers. And you have to not be afraid. Because even in New York, people will come and find you. And all the time, people come and they say, I cannot believe there's a group like this. I cannot believe there's other people that think the way I do. I cannot believe that you guys are doing what you're doing. They're impressed, they come out, and many times, many of them are former Dems, and they're disillusioned. And they said, my family were Democrats, I was a Democrat, I was told one thing, and it's not the same anymore, and I'm looking for alternatives. And they find it, and we give it to them, and they're impressed, and they're on board, because, that's what it's about. You have to give an alternative to the Dems. You have to give an alternative to the left. You can't just say you're basically a Democrat minus 1 point. But no one cares about it. They want a worldview. And the Democrats on the left, again, give them credit where credit's due. We all hate AOC. I think she's a total hypocrite. She's down in Miami living the good life and then preaching about New York and what we have to do, but she's enjoying their freedoms. We get that. But what does she do? What do they present? They present a worldview. They talk about the future, the Green New Deal, everything. The streets are going to be paved with gold. Everything's going to be a rainforest. You're going to bring you're going to pick steaks off of trees. It's going to be beautiful. They paint this whole future. And then what do Republicans do? Okay, we'll do that, but can we just do it by like minus 10%? Just to keep the budgets in line. That's not a vision. That's not a vision of the future. You need to prevent an actual alternative. You need to actually stand your ground and fight back and say, this is ridiculous. We're not going to do a light version. We're going to do a completely different thing because your worldview is bogus and you're a bunch of liars and hypocrites, which is what they are. So that's the long and short of it. We've built it up. We're going to keep growing. You're all welcome to come and join and get involved, and we're going to keep building the party. And another thing that a lot of Republicans forget, talking about the left. A lot of people used to make fun of Barack Obama. Why'd they make fun of Barack Obama? Oh, he was a community organizer. Oh, that's stupid. No. That's how you build political organizations, because the left, they build their infrastructure. They have tons of nonprofits. They have NGOs. They have the churches. They have the support groups. They have the parties. They create a support system that you may not be political, but we're going to help you. It's very old school. It's very old world. It's like Tammany Hall, but they've perfected it. And community organizing is at the core of that. You got the community organizers. They help the local constituents. And then what do those constituents do? They get out to the polls and they vote. And I don't blame them. Where have the Republicans been? Have the Republicans built similar infrastructure in many inner city communities, in many other communities? Where have they been? Curtis Sliwa always goes around and says the only Republican they've ever seen is on the $5 bill. It's true. The Democrats are there, and they've been building for years a support network. So you rise up, your local precinct committee man, your local club, your local elected, and they helped you. They spoke at your graduation. They showed up. They helped you out. They create this whole community, and they build this network and these social bonds. That means you have these Democrat districts that vote 90-10. And why wouldn't they? And maybe they're getting lied to, and maybe they are doing them a disservice. It's true, but they're there, they're active, and they control everything around you. So community organizing is important. You guys are community organizing right now. I mean, it's the same thing. You got to build these clubs up, and you got to get active, because no one's interested in a party that meets behind closed doors. And no one knows who the chairman is, no one knows what's going on, they're making shady deals. No one cares about that. That's why they like you guys. You guys have great events, Vicky has great events, because they're engaging with the community. So you got to do more of that, you got to keep expanding, and that's how you fight back, bit by bit. So that's a bit about the club. Happy to take questions, whatever there is.
Okay, well.